What's going on, guys? Kulprit here, and welcome back again to episode, I believe it's 13 of my mailbag series. Now, it's been a couple weeks since I've done one of these. Just got busy with all kinds of other content and stuff, so I always bump the mailbag when time needs to be put elsewhere. So I didn't want to let too long go, so I went back to a couple of previous mailbags, kind of took some of the questions I didn't use, and then I did something a little bit differently, and I solicited YouTube for some suggestions and asked you guys to tweet at me with a question to kind of fill out the video. And a bunch of you guys tweeted out about the same kind of news, so I'm going to cover that in question 3. Once again, Mailbag is a series you can ask me just about anything gaming, Battlefield, YouTube, personal. Doesn't bother me. I'm pretty open like that, and if it's something I want to answer, I just won't answer it. The best way to do that is to post your questions down below in the comments. When it's time for me to make another video, I go back to the previous video and I look through the comments and I pull questions out of there. Of course, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube messaging, email are all perfectly valid as well. If you want to remain anonymous, please indicate so, because otherwise a lot of times what I'll do is I will overlay your question on the video, just kind of give you some credit and some props and for a good question. So without further ado, let's get right into it. And question number 1 is from Mr. Luke Jansen. Do you think Battlefield 4 has a bit too much customization? There is just so much to choose from, and that only 50% of the weapons get used, and I feel like some things are just without thought put into this game. And I think what he's getting at is bloat, and I'm going to touch on that in a second, but first let's just talk about too much customization. You know, is it unnecessary customization? For me, yeah, I don't really have any use for most of it. But do I think there's too much? No, because I do recognize that there's other people out there that do enjoy these things. I don't think I've ever changed my soldiers' camouflage. I don't care. I probably should. It might actually have something to do. I don't know. But I should probably look at like tank paint and things like that. I've never messed with that. But I know that some people do, and some people find that important. Weapon camo. I think I have an adaptive camo on, and I've had it on for months. I don't really mess with that. These things don't matter to me, but as far as like too many things in the game, no, I would actually counter. I think the weaponry is okay. I like more weapons, even though I know that, you know, as we keep adding more and more weapons, the differences become less and less. There's just only so many different variables you can tweak to make different combinations, and that's what weapons are. They're just different variables. They're different, you know, settings in an algorithm that output different results, and then they skin it with a particular weapon skin. But I enjoy it. I enjoy trying a new weapon, even if it's very similar to X, Y, or Z. I would say there's not enough attachments. They need more attachments. I would say there's not enough gadgets. They need more gadgets. But instead, what they gave us is a ton of knives and other BS, you know, like things that don't matter. Again, low effort things. That's what basically DICE has gotten known for now. But no, I don't think there's too much. I think, you know, the issue I think you're actually kind of getting to is bloat, and you know, when you have too many things, it's hard to balance, and that's very true, and you know, theoretically. But I think the bigger problem is DICE here. They're just lazy. They had the same problem in Battlefield 3 they have worse problem Battlefield 3 with balancing and less gadgetry. Remember, Battlefield 3 always had the M16, AEK, 416. They were kind of like the god guns for a while. They were the upper tier, and if you didn't use like one of those 3 weapons for the most part, you were kind of putting yourself at least at a little bit of a disadvantage. Battlefield 4, I think there's a lot more viable weaponry. I think there's a lot more kind of differences, well, subtly differences. Like you got like the Scar H versus the Ace 23. And the Ace 23 kind of is very likened to the M16 in Battlefield 3, but the Scar H is very unique in my opinion, because it's got its own little personality, and I appreciate that in Battlefield 4. And like things like LMGs in Battlefield 4, I think they're way more viable in Battlefield 4 than they were in Battlefield 3, and I appreciate that. Appreciate being able to use carbines in every category. I think that adds to the game. Now, does it kind of lose some of the uniqueness? Possibly, because I don't see much of a reason to ever use PDWs or things like that, but I mean, maybe some people do. I don't know. I've played very little with the PDWs myself, which is kind of unfortunate, because I'm sure there's some interesting guns in there, but I didn't really enjoy using PDWs in Battlefield 3 either for Engineer, and it was one of the reasons I didn't really like the Engineer class, to be quite honest. So, I think it's okay. I think it's a good level. I understand customization is something that people really want, even if it's largely lost on me. I want features. You know, I want attachments. I want gadgetry. I want more guns. I want things that actually affect how I play the game. Cosmetic things like, you know, uniforms and paints and camouflages and knives and that dog tags. None of that matters to me. I could really care less about that stuff. So if you're asking me, you could take all that stuff out. Give me things that affect how I play. And, you know, give me more variables to kind of, you know, so I could vary my play and customize how I play. customize how I play, not how I look. I guess that's the best way I could say it. But thank you very much for the question. I do appreciate that. All right, so question number 2 is from L0114R. If that's a lollar, I don't know if it's supposed to say something. How do you handle having a family and being a gamer? I know that I don't get much time to play now that I have 2 sons, or have my sons. I see 2 because that's what I have. First of all, congratulations, plural sons. So yeah, you do have more than one. Definitely hear what you're saying. It's very difficult, as is life. Life changes. It definitely does, especially for a gamer. About the only answer, I'll give you 2 kind of answers. I'll give you the first one is the only thing that I can say. How do I game? And for that matter, YouTube on top of it. With my kids, I don't sleep as much as I used to. I need to. There's only really one thing in my life that I'll give. I'm not going to sacrifice the time of my kids. I'm not going to sacrifice the time of my wife. There's my job. There's other kind of theoretical hobbies I pursue, but doesn't seem to be many right now. None of those things I can really give up on. So the only thing that really I can sacrifice is sleep, and that's what I do. Probably to my detriment, honestly, because as I do get a little bit older, I do find I don't bounce back up as much like I used to. God forbid I have a couple beers on a Friday night and do a stream and stay up until 2 and 3 in the morning. Holy smokes. When they wake me up at 6 a.m. and wanted a Royal Rumble, I'm in trouble. It's just not fun for me. Even though I am having fun, it is not fun. So, yeah, I mean, it's just, I think my best advice to you is to be flexible. You're not going to get those big, epic 4 or 5 hour sessions where you can just sit around all day on a Saturday and game. I miss those. Don't have it. This is why I don't play MMOs and things like that. Just don't have time for it. I get an hour here, an hour there, an hour here, an hour there, maybe a 2 or 3 hour Friday night and go crazy, you know. But that's life, and I'm not complaining about it as I don't think you are either. But it's just the way things are. Got to be flexible. Got to adapt. Got to be efficient. Got to get your stuff done quick. That your priorities. That'll free up more time for you to goof around. That's what I do. Find systems that work for you with you, and I'm assuming your wife. That's how I did it. When we had our second child, he was a baby. I've told this story before. I told her right off the bat, I will watch him overnight, and you can sleep during the night, and then, relieve me. So I would be up with the baby all night. He would sleep, but, if he cried or changed, I had to take care of him. And all the while, hanging out with my buddies on Xbox Live. It was back when I played on Xbox, and I'd play with them all night, basically Battlefield 3, playing with them. Every now and then, I'd have to jump up. Guys, I got to go. I'll be right back. Feed the baby, change the baby, get the baby back down, and be back in a half an hour. Play again for 2 or 3 hours until the baby woke up again. And I do that all night, and the wife would wake up happy because I let her sleep. So she was grateful. She would take the baby with me, or away from me, and at 6 a.m. or whatever it was, I would crawl into bed and go to sleep and sleep until 1 or 2 in the afternoon. That was the system we had. Had to be flexible. It worked for me. I got to play a ton of Battlefield 3 at the time. I was right around the launch. My son was born in February, so it was October. God, see, lack of sleep. He was born in October, so it was he was born just before the Battlefield 3 launch. So I had to play the hell out of Battlefield 3 for that winter and on consoles. So you just got to adapt. You got to be flexible, and it'll work out. Again, it's a good problem to have. Enjoy your gaming as well as your sons, obviously. But thank you for the question. I appreciate it. Now for question 3, like I said, I solicited Twitter to hey guys, I need one more question from a mailbag. Tweet at me, and maybe you'll be featured in the video. I kind of intended to pick one tweet and use it, but what happened is I had a couple of your tweets pointing to the same little bit of a news article, and that article is this, and I'm going to overlay the tweet here, just the tweet I found as I researched. DICE Stockholm has confirmed that Dragon's Teeth and Final Stand will be done by DICE LA. These devs are the same devs that made Second Assault, and then I'll overlay another piece as I kind of look for a source on that. I don't like to just rely on Twitter, even though Ruben is actually a pretty good source. This is from Reddit. This is Darklord7854, in case you don't know. He is a dev at DICE. He's actually for Battlelog. Why the guy who works on Battlelog is more forthcoming and more informative than just about anybody else at DICE is something that makes me want to strangle a puppy. Not you, the puppy, but a puppy. I don't know. It's DICE in a nutshell. The guy who devs Battlelog is telling us about the game, and more so than any community manager or any senior developer. They're all hiding now. They're hiding, is what it comes down to. Anyway, he said DICE Stockholm is doing Naval Strike. Everything else will be done by DICE LA. Let's read between the lines here. DICE Stockholm is doing Naval Strike. After that, they're done with Battlefield 4. I mean, that's what this means here. And you're asking me what I think of this, and that's what I think. I think despite telling us that nothing else will get done until the game is fixed, despite telling us they will not abandon Battlefield 4, despite telling us we will get our money's worth and don't fret, after Naval Strike, the core developer crew that we know as DICE, as when we think of DICE, we think of Stockholm, is going to move on to new projects. That's what's going on here. That's exactly what they did in Battlefield 3. If you remember, right at launch, the senior team the core development team for DICE. They stuck around for about a month. Once launch got kind of the ripples of launch settled, they moved on to what we now know as Battlefield 4. They probably worked on Frostbite 3 a little bit, but they moved on to another project. And we got what I call the B team, or the junior varsity team. The less senior guys at DICE then took over with the support and kind of bug fixing and things. And that's why we had such hard times with Battlefield 3, and you saw such a fall off there, if you remember. I think that's exactly what the plan was for Battlefield 4. We certainly know they have projects backed up with Mirror's Edge, Battlefront, and a lot of other things. They probably have the engine they've got to get ready for other games. I'm sure they've got a ton of stuff backed up now. They're probably catching a lot of heat from the powers that be. Hey, they've earned it. They should be put over the fire a little bit. So I think the plan was from all along, do the same thing. Get launch, let launch settle down, push out a DLC, and then the core team moves on to another project, and we bring in the less senior guys, the rookies, the interns, it sometimes seems like, and let them support the game. But because the game was such a terrible, it was in such a terrible state, they couldn't do that. So I think they've overstayed a lot longer now than they planned to. Lord knows we still have not seen the game fixed, but that's weird, right? That they would be moving on to other projects. I guess that means the game's fixed, right? By their definition, the game must be fixed. Yes, I should go log in now because the game must be fixed. I don't know. Like, you're asking me what I think about this. Battlefield 3, I got really angry at this. I got upset because I felt like they were bringing in inferior staff, or inferior talent, I should say. So therefore, I was going to get an inferior product. I was upset by this. And it says a lot that at this point right now in Battlefield 4, I'm like, meh, who cares? It can't be worse. I know DICE LA isn't really new blood, but it can't be worse, right? I mean, DICE LA, for those who don't know, has done Second Assault. I can't really fault them a lot for the things I don't like about Second Assault. I mean, some of the work there is really good work. Its Caspian border is beautiful. Even I'm having fun at Firestorm, which is really weird. Some of the things that anger me is the way they did Domination. I think that's deplorable. They just didn't do anything. They just kept the same flags. For the most part, they've moved a couple. The runways, and I take more issue with the maps that were chosen for Second Assault than the work done on Second Assault. So I don't really blame DICE LA for that. I was told someone that DICE LA actually had a hand, and as far as I understand, DICE LA is Danger Close, Medal of Honor Warfighter. That studio was busted up by EA. A lot of those guys were hired over by DICE and made their own little LA studio there. They had a hand in Endgame and Aftermath, which would be good if that were true. I had no way to confirm that. I got told by a pretty good source, which Jake in the Works, his YouTuber, obviously, when he was over on the Showdown in England, in London, for the launch of Battlefield 4, he said on his squad was like one of the lead developers, and he told them that they had hands in Aftermath and Endgame, so that's a good thing. Aftermath is still one of my favorite DLCs of in the Battlefield IP. So that's a good thing. I don't know how much of a hand they had in China Rising or Naval Strike. I get the interpretation here that Naval Strike is going to be very unique DLC. Obviously, it's going to be naval water-based combat. We know Carrier Assault, which if done well, Carrier Assault can be a game changer. It can be a big innovation in the Battlefield game. So that'll be interesting to see, and that's why DICE wants to handle it themselves. We'll see. Time will tell, guys. I don't really have an opinion. That's kind of sad. No opinion is probably alarming for me. I don't know. Time will tell. But there you go, guys. Thank you so much for the questions. I really do appreciate it. Remember, have a good weekend. It's Friday. Enjoy yourselves. Take it easy. Spend some time with your sons. Get some gaming in there. L011E3. I'm going to do that. It's kind of going to be all kids all the time this weekend. That's how it is now. Kids are very cabin fevered. Oh, man, it's been a long winter. But anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching. Appreciate all your support. Thank you very much. And I will talk to you soon, guys. Take care.